In a forest nearby, a young lady named Drasa wakes up the moment she heard the sound of a plane arriving at the airport. So quickly, Drasa grabbed her sniper, aiming toward the direction of the private jet. She patiently waited for a target to step out. As soon as the man gets off the plane, he gets shot in the head. Quickly, the scene shifted to a former Marine named Levi waking up from a nightmare, where he soon decided to go clear his head by resting at the beach. The next day, Levi receives a message informing him to report to C. Pendleton. Seems it is where the Marine Corps base is located. After a short while, Levi arrived to meet with a senior agent named Bartholomew. She seems to know Levi's outstanding career as an elite sniper with no family or friends, a man who have 113 confirmed kills and additional 81 probable kills. Although Levi claims the numbers isn't accurate as he has actually done more than those figures. Bartholomew is here to offer him a job. Meanwhile, in Lithuania, Drasa goes to meet with her dad at the cemetery, where we get to find out that today is her mother's death anniversary. Drasa is informed by her dad that he recently just learned that treating his cancer is impossible, as it is already too late to do that, plus the deadly illness has eaten deep too much. Although he is of the opinion that if he isn't dead by February 14th, he will eliminate himself, so he can finally rest and meet with his wife on Valentine's Day. Now in September, Levi, who seems to have been unconscious, wakes up inside a plane. Quickly, he is asked by the agent to place his hands on a tab and also drop all his belongings behind. He asks a soldier where they are, but she isn't authorized to answer that. She tells him they're reaching a no-fly zone, where he will have to jump and take a long walk with his foot for the rest of the journey. Immediately, Levi does in accordance to the plan, and after a very lengthy walk, he came across a soldier who goes by the name J.D. He revealed to Levi that he has been in this location for a year now, and doesn't even know where they are. Plus, Levi is the first person he has spoken with in person for over a year now. They arrived at the West Tower, which is completely self-sufficient with solar energy, a backup generator, a vegetable garden, and plenty of wild game to hunt. However, things are different on the other side of the gorge. After the little talk and walk, JD explains Levi's mission, as Levi's mission is simply to stop what is in the gorge from coming out. During their conversation, a loud noise is heard which Levi wants information on. JD tells him that is what they call the Hallow Men, as nobody knows exactly what they are, and he doesn't know why they are also called that. He explains to Levi that the gorge is the door to hell, and they are standing guard at the gate. The next day, Levi proceeded to his second part of his mission, which is Levi must walk the western rim and restock the ammo in the automatic gun turrets, which are located almost every 600 meters, followed by checking the containment fence, the mines, and the cloakers, which is simply a devices that send false signals to all satellites to keep the gorge invisible. Plus, every 30 days, he must also do a radio check, but there is no way to communicate with the outside world. In case of an emergency, there's a panic button that will activate the stray dog protocol, but JD informed Levi that he doesn't know what it really does, so he advised Levi to just run if it ever happens. Later that day, JD left the tower and proceeded to his pickup location. Immediately, a chopper arrived to pick him up by throwing a rope. JD quickly attached it to his body in order to get into the helicopter. However, the soldier in charge asked him to clearly confirm his identity, which JD does by stating the password. The soldier shoots him in the head and drops his body somewhere in the middle of the forest. After this was done, the officer informed his boss about this. After a month later, Levi continues his daily mission routine, which was very boring. He contacts someone through the radio, and it is just clear that the individual at the other end simply want to know if everything is going fine. Once this is confirmed, he hangs up the call immediately. Just then, Levi noticed a text written at the wall, which goes back to even 1947. After Levi was done reading all those, he goes to work at the garden, where all of a sudden, he noticed some movement on the other end of the tower. So quickly, he uses his binoculars and sees Drasa cutting wood. Drasa in return also sees him, but seems not to care. So at night during a heavy storm, Levi aggressively wakes up after having a terrible nightmare, which makes him think he's being attacked, so he grabs a gun. After a short while, he realized he had just injured his foot by stepping on the broken glass, so he immediately attended to his injuries. So while doing this, he notices that Drasa is still awake and watching him before going to bed. 1 month later in November, which was Drasa's birthday. She celebrated it alone, but after a short moment, she also noticed Levi watching her. So in order to celebrate our birthday in a proper manner, she goes inside to get her gun before coming out to shoot it, so as to get Levi's attention. She holds up a sign asking for his name. Levi writes back to her, informing Drasa that they aren't supposed to talk or communicate with each other. So quickly Drasa responded with her name and saying she will do whatever she wants on her birthday. Levi, who seems to be overwhelmed by all this, replies with his name too, and raises a glass so they can make a toast to celebrate together. After which, Drasa play a very loud song while she also dances. She requests Levi to dance along with her. Levi, on the other hand, explains to her that he is a terrible dancer but an amazing sniper, so when Drasa asked how good he was and wanted him to shoot the bottle in front of her, Levi declined and proceeded to go into his room, but just then, Drasa responds by shooting his water bottle. So quickly, Levi grabs his gun and shoots her bottle too. Then Drasa puts another bottle on her head, intending to continue the game. While they play, Drasa is forced to stop the game when she notices something moving in the gorge. So Levi ruses to look down, and unfortunately, he discovers a weird-looking creature that has human-like resemblance with that of a tree. The creature continues to climb up his side of the gorge wall. He immediately shoots one of these monsters and causes it to fall onto a mine, which blows up. Levi continues to eliminate as many as possible, while Drasa also helped from the other side of the wall. Unbeknownst to Drasa, that a creature seems to have gotten to her own side. When she noticed this, she quietly waited. Once the creature reaches her balcony, she shoots it with her gun a few times before eventually kicking it off. Many of the other creatures begin to climb the wall on her side, and in return, Levi assisted her to stop them. At that moment, one of the creatures falls on a mine, which triggers an explosion. Unfortunately, this causes a piece of metal to fly and hit Drasa in the shoulder. Unluckily for Levi and Drasa, the creatures rapidly climb both walls at the same time, so Levi and Drasa use the machine guns to kill them and activate more mines with an artificial machine gun for assistance. After a long shoot and killing from them, the two successfully eliminated all the creatures at the scene. The next day, Drasa proceeded to treat herself. After a short while, she noticed Levi was watching her, so she wrote to him, telling Levi it was her best birthday ever. Later that day, Levi proceeded to fix all that was damaged and replace the mines. Suddenly, a weird-looking drone came out of the gorge and flies off. Now in December. At night, Levi went on to put up a bunch of lights around a tree in the forest, making it look like a Christmas tree. He also puts up a sign for Drasa, which made Drasa laugh happily. Their lovely friendship continues, as the two even created a snowman with each other's names, while also playing and drumming using their pot. Now on February 14th, Drasa on the other end is shown crying, so when Levi sees this, he asks why she didn't show for patrol earlier today. She informed him she's been having a hard day, and she wishes he could somehow be there with her. After a short thinking, Levi devised a plan by using all the tools he could get to build a special contraption. Once he was done, he shoots a rocket across the gorge, which gets stuck on a tree. Once it was in place, it starts a fire, but Drasa rushes in time to put it off and notices there's a rope attached to the rocket. She ties the rope well to the tree before running back to the tower, where she got to her usual spot, sees Levi asking her to dinner. Once this was over, Levi began to prepare himself for his date, after which he uses the rope to slide down in order to cross the gorge. Unfortunately, this gets struck halfway, so Levi uses his hands to grab the rope until he successfully crosses to the other end. The two exchange pleasantries before Levi then gives Drasa the flowers he brought. She points out he smells terribly bad because of all he just did, so Levi agrees to take a shower. While he was at it, Drasa takes his uniform and leaves some new clothes. In the evening, the two continue to discuss about their experiences as mercenaries. Levi also informed Drasa of how many actual kills he has to his name, which Drasa is very impressed by this. They both seem to bond well, as they shared things really dear and personal to them. Afterwards, the two continue to have a wonderful evening as they both dance. Things soon turn very heated between them, if you get what I mean here. The next day, Levi proceeded to leave by sliding on the rope. In a plot twist, the hollow men appear on his wall, thereby triggering a mine. Quickly, Levi began to fall and immediately opens his parachute while Drasa rushes to grab a bunch of weapons alongside things she needed. Drasa then jumps into the gorge. Sadly for her, she lands right into a river, making her parachute get stuck on a rock, so Drasa quickly cut it off. Just then, the current from the water began to push her, causing her to accidentally drop the auto-ascender. Meanwhile, Levi is unconscious and hanging upside down on a tree. Suddenly, the tree branches starts to move, revealing it as a monster. Fortunately, when it gets close to Levi, he wakes up and begins shooting at it, while also alerting Drasa. He quickly untangled the ropes and falls to the ground, which appears to be like a mud, before something mysterious begins to move, revealing it to be the mouth of another monster. Once Levi realizes this, he tried getting out, but the creatures trapped Levi as the mouth slowly starts to close. Luckily for him, Drasa arrives just on time to open fire at the creature, rescuing Levi. Drasa uses her knife to get the substance off Levi's body, before the two began to find their way back to the wall. But just then, they hear a loud noise before two hollow men appear on horses similar to a tree, as they continuously attack Levi and Drasa with swords. One of the creatures jumps off the horse to attack Drasa, but she stabs it in the neck with a knife to make him fall, and then shoots it in the face. On the other hand, Levi also killed his own attacker. Just then, Drasa realized that she had lost the auto-ascender during her fall, and to get to the top might be impossible as it is a 500-meter climb, meaning they are now stuck there. Levi takes a closer look at the creature and discovers they are putting on a very old military uniform from the 1940s, which means the Hollow Men are the lost horseback battalions from the story. They both proceeded to move by following the river, because it has to drain out somewhere. They walk through the forest, finding thousands of skeletons on the way. They soon find an abandoned town where all the buildings are covered by mutated plants. It seems the ground have also been damaged from an earthquake. The two heard a loud noise so quickly they rushed inside a church to hide. Once they were in, they find few skeletons on the seats. Levi can smell cyanide, which means these people burn themselves. Drasa believes this place is evil. At that moment, the two heard another sound, so when Drasa looked up, she finds a huge spider that jumps to attack her. Drasa kills it, but sadly there were more which prompted the two to shoot rapidly, killing as many as possible. Soon Drasa runs out of bullets, and many other Hollow Men burst in and a serious battle ensues. After a short fight, Drasa created a blast and the two ran out for their life. Levi believed they are too exposed, so the two ran straight into a building. They discovered the building was an old facility that was overtaken by the plants too. Deeper inside, they learned this used to be a military lab. There are a lot of skeletons and a generator that Drasa turns on. Levi find and play a tape. In the film, a scientist explains that it is 1946 and that this community was formed as part of a top-secret coalition of nations. During the last years of World War II, they worked on creating biochemical missiles. However, 6 days before the recording of this film, an earthquake hit the area and caused a serious chemical leak. Although they did all they could to contain the spread of this toxin, but sadly, it was impossible as it merged with the DNA of the locals and mutated them. Being exposed to the toxin for only a few hours doesn't do anything, but the more they worked, the more exposed the scientists were, and it was slowly affecting them too, which also affected her. So, since the base was in the gorge, the toxin never reached the rest of humanity. Later, Levi and Drasa find an old computer, which means that after the initial incident, people kept coming to continue the experiment. Levi discovers this place belongs to Dark Lake, a private paramilitary corporation. The drone they saw the other day was collecting samples for Dark Lake's experiments, which are trying to create super soldiers. The towers and the hired guards help them keep the secret. In the computer, Levi also finds an explanation for the stray dog protocol, which turns out to be a nuclear bomb that will sterilize the area if a leak ever happens. The two head outside, but firstly, they throw a smoke grenade before coming out. Suddenly, the Hollow Man grabs Drasa's ankle using a rope, before then dragging her away with full force. Drasa tries freeing herself from the whip, but sadly for her, she accidentally crashes against a log, making her lose consciousness. Nearby, Levi follows the rider's tracks and eventually ends up finding the facility with the nuclear bomb. Inside the facility, the Hollow Man began to torture Drasa using a piece of the wood inside her before taking it out. Drasa kicks him on the chest before untangling herself to get freed. Later, she pushes the Hollow Man and grabs a piece of metal as a weapon. After a long struggle between the two, a serious fight ensues between them. Just as he overpowered Drasa, Levi arrived to eliminate it. Drasa rushes immediately to hug Levi. Once they were done, Levi realized the name in the uniform, recognizing it as the first guard that worked in his tower. Later, the two make their way out and find the place where the initial leak occurred. There are mutated creatures everywhere stuck in the gorge created by the toxin. Just as they proceeded to cross using the bridge, the whole place seems to make Drasa uncomfortable. So during this, she stepped on one of the gorge substances, so the bodies begin falling in order to capture her. But Levi uses the sword to quickly cut all the roots and rescue Drasa. Soon after, a much bigger one began to attack them. Drasa shoots a grenade behind them and causes a big explosion. The creatures catch on fire and the flames spread through the entire structure. Afterwards, they find military jeeps in a garage which seems to still work. The two use the jeep to find their way back. They got to their destination, so quickly Levi immediately ties the rope to the jeep while Drasa shoots at the Hollow Men who try to approach them. Once Levi was done, they begin to ascend the wall using the jeep. But after a short while, they discover the Hollow Men are climbing to follow them using the rope. They kick one off, and Levi begins using the sword to kill the others. A serious struggle for survival yet again began, but unfortunately for them, Levi is left hanging on truck. Once he got himself, he uses a flare on the creatures. When it combines with a dripping fuel, it causes a huge explosion that burns many of the monsters, but also makes the jeep explode. During fire, Levi breaks his leg when he hits the wall, and Drasa has to help him up. They both got to the top safely, after which, and agreed to stay apart for 5 days as quarantine in case any of them is infected. Levi also told Drasa the reason they chose him for the job because he was expendable. They also want to run away together, so they make a plan to destroy the gorge. The next day, the two share a kiss, and Levi tells Drasa that he loves her before sliding back to his tower. The next morning, Levi proceeded with his daily routine, but firstly, he goes to make a call using the radio, which to our surprise, Bartholomew picked up because she's learned that the computer in the lab was turned on. So since Levi denies going into the gorge, Bartholomew concludes that the person in the other tower did. So Levi's new mission is to kill them. Just then, Levi pretended to accept the mission. We soon learn that the lab computer had a camera, so Bartholomew knows both soldiers were down there. She calls a commander, informing him that Levi has been compromised. She also ordered him to get a team ready to visit the gorge. The next day, Levi and Drasa proceeded to get some minds ready for their plan. At the other end, Drasa writes, "I love you back" for Levi. Just then, they see a chopper coming their way, so they immediately start running through the forest. When Bartholomew and the soldiers find the towers empty, they activate and send out drones, and a very serious chase begins, with a drone opening fire. Immediately, Levi destroyed one of the drone while Drasa also did same. They managed to take down many of this drone while sustaining few injuries during the process. Bartholomew read the message Levi left behind, stating 3 things that cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Once they reach a spot high enough, they get into their sniper positions and shoot the cloakers, and this in return created a chain reaction that starts destroying all the cloakers in the area. However, now that the gorge is exposed, which means they only have 2 minutes to leave the area, the stray dog protocol activates. Bartholomew and her team rush to the helicopter to fly away, while Levi and Drasa run as fast as they can. Unfortunately, the nuclear bomb goes off and the loud explosion brings down the helicopter, making it crash there by killing everyone inside. The force of this explosion also affects Levi as he is pushed off the edge of a cliff into a river. As for Drasa, she manages to escape and hides in a cave to wait for Levi. Now in April, still no news from the love of her life, so Drasa decides to leave alone. The scene then shifted to France, where Drasa is now working as a waitress. That very day, she is surprised to find Levi sitting just nearby. So she goes to meet him and tells him he is late, and he explains he just had to get back to her before they both kiss. The movie then came to an end. Kindly subscribe for more latest movie recap like this. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.